Together they left Ur and went to Haran, where Abraham's father, Terah, passed away. However, God had given Abraham a clear instruction: leave your country, your people, and your father's household. Genesis 12:1 NIV. Yet, up until that point, Abraham still carried Lot with him, a vulnerable and orphaned relative. His emotional connection caused him to hesitate in fully obeying. It was only after Lot parted ways with him that Abraham could see the future God had in store. In that moment, God reaffirmed his promises and showed him the land of Canaan. That separation was painful but necessary for Abraham to move forward. How often do we cling to things that are no longer part of God's plan? It might be a situation, a person, or even a place. Just as Abraham had to let go of Lot, and the widow had to exchange her jars, we must learn to trust that each removal prepares us for something greater. The act of removal may be difficult, but it marks the beginning of a new chapter. God always invites us to step into the future, even if it means leaving behind what feels familiar or comfortable. Are you willing to trust Him and step into the next phase? When God commands something to be removed from our lives, it is not always easy to accept. This was true for Abraham, the father of faith. He had received a clear directive from God: leave your country, your people, and your father's household. Genesis 12:1 NIV. Yet even after leaving his homeland, Abraham could not separate himself from his nephew Lot. This bond, though emotionally understandable, caused delays and challenges to God's plan for his life. Abraham saw Lot as a form of security for his future. He thought, if I can't have children, at least Lot can be my heir. This emotional attachment made it hard for Abraham to see beyond his current reality. He was stuck in the mindset that without Lot, there would be no path, no solution. How often do we cling to something or someone as though it is our only source of security? The coexistence between Abraham and Lot began to create problems. Their prosperity had grown so great that the land's resources were no longer sufficient to sustain their flocks. The conflict between Lot's herdsmen and Abraham's herdsmen became the breaking point. In a gesture of humility and faith, Abraham said to Lot, "Choose where you want to go, and I will go in the opposite direction." Lot chose to head towards Sodom and Gomorrah, cities notorious for their corruption and sin. Meanwhile, Abraham took a different path, a path of communion with God. This separation was necessary for the fulfillment of God's plan. It was only after Lot left Abraham's life that God said, "Lift up your eyes from where you are and look north and south, east and west. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever." Genesis 13:14-15 NIV. Notice that the promise only became clear and attainable after Abraham parted ways with Lot. Abraham needed to break free from the emotional ties that held him back. Although he was wealthy and prosperous, Lot's presence represented a delay, a bond that limited what God wanted to accomplish in his life. This story teaches us an important lesson. There are moments when we must cut ties that hold us to the past or to certain relationships. This does not mean disrespect or ingratitude, but rather preparation to live out our own story, the one God has uniquely planned for us. Had it been up to Abraham alone, he might never have let Lot go. However, God used the circumstances to force that separation, and it was only after this removal that Abraham could finally see what God wanted to do in his life. I don't know what prison or attachment may be keeping you from moving forward. Perhaps it is something related to your family, a job, a relationship, or even a pattern of thinking. What I do know is that God has something greater for you, but it will only be possible when you allow certain things to be removed. It is painful, I know, but when you let go, God says, "Now lift your eyes and see, because there are no limits to what I can do in your life." Are you willing to trust God and allow Him to remove what no longer aligns with His purpose? Remember, the pain of removal always precedes the glory of a new beginning. There are moments when, to reach a new level in our lives, we need to leave certain things or people behind. This does not mean abandonment or neglect, but allowing the removal to take place so that God can do something greater in our lives. Think of Abraham. After Lot's departure, everything changed direction completely. As painful as it was this separation that paved the way for God's promises. Sometimes a new level in marriage or life is only possible when we face these separations. It's not about abandonment, but about understanding the timing of each thing. Now let's turn to Jonah, chapter 1, verse 15. The Bible says, "Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm."